Tips from Trestle is brought to you by eMenuChoice Point of Sale and Clark Food Service Equipment. Welcome to Tips from Trestle, the Senior Living Food and Hospitality Podcast. This podcast explores the senior living industry with a unique focus on food, hospitality, and the community experience. I'm your host, Aaron Fish. My goal for this podcast: educate, inform, and inspire leaders in senior living. How? By bringing the resident and customer experience to the front of mind in our industry. We should bring the passionate spirit of food and hospitality to everything that we do and everyone we serve each and every day. So what are we waiting for? Let's get to it. Today on Tips from Trestle, I'm speaking with the driving force behind the Florida Senior Living Association, Gail, Matillo, and Katherine Upton. Gail is the president and CEO of FSLA, and Katherine is the director of education and engagement. The mission of FSLA is to recognize, promote, and increase professionalism and standards of excellence in communities throughout the state, providing families and residents with the best choices and options for quality care. Ladies, thanks for joining me today on Tips from Trestle.
Aaron, thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
I always love talking to you guys. We do so much together with our cocktails and conversations and other education. But one of the things that I haven't really gotten a lot of information about, but I want to learn about, is your Leadership FSLA program. And so I really want to dive into that and kind of get the nuts and bolts, because from my vantage point, having worked with multiple state associations, it seems like a unique opportunity for senior living managers and directors to really build up their leadership capacity. And so, Gail, I'd love for you to kind of give us an overview of what Leadership FSLA is and kind of what your main goal was when creating it.
Sure, that sounds great. We started talking about this program back in 2014, actually. So it's been a long time coming. Our leadership program is very kind of unique because we take nominations from the membership. So someone that wants to participate in the program has to be nominated by a peer. So when the students come to the first meeting, some of them are like, well, what am I even here for? But somebody in their community or, their leadership saw something in that person to make them think, hey, this would make a great leader. So we're gonna nominate them to be in the program. So this is our second class. We are doing 6-month classes. We'll start our third class after graduation at our conference. So that third class will start in August. So we're super excited about doing this program.
Yeah, I do love the fact that you limit the size of the class. It's not just that, we'll take everybody and it's got to be, nominated, and you guys are pretty, I don't want to say selective, but I mean you're very deliberate about who participates. And so um when you look at the people that get nominated, what kind of positions are typically selected? Is it mostly executive directors, or is it a wide variety of positions in the industry?
Catherine?
I'll take this one. We do have some executive directors, some associate executive directors, but also we have back office managers, food and beverage managers, culinary directors. So just at our first commencement, I felt I met a wide range of people who worked in the community.
Yeah, and I think it's so important that you don't just focus on executive directors, because I feel like that's where a lot of our leadership programming goes, is to like that regional director or the executive director level, and they're not necessarily the ones doing all the day in and day out work. And so getting and building that bench, if you will, I think is so important. And so, Gail, what kinds of things are a part of the leadership program, kind of at a high level, that you see and you guys focus on with your participants?
Yeah, before I answer that, Andrew, let me just tell you a little bit about the class that we just held a few
Yeah.
weeks. So we had about 14 or 15 students, one of which was a person who just came to support her friend that she worked with. So she drove up to Tallahassee. I was going to sit out in the lobby for a day and a half, during these classes just
Wow.
to be there with her friend. And we noticed what was going on and said, "Hey, why don't you come in? Why don't you come in and participate in the class?" And she loved it. So actually, her employer decided to go ahead and add her to the class as well. But what was so interesting about the 2-day class that we just held was they were strangers when they walked in that room. They did not know one another. Some of them didn't know why they were there, really. But by the end of that second day, they were hugging one another. They had everybody's contact information. They had created such a culture amongst themselves that they will continue now to be friends, probably throughout their entire careers now. So it's wonderful seeing that after a 2-day meeting where people can come together and have so much more in common, even though they're in different positions. So I just wanted to point that out. It was just incredible.
Yeah, I can imagine, I always think about those like leadership conferences and classes that I attended. It helps you build those bonds, that shared experience, but also being able to know that you've got those resources from all across the industry now that have to be invaluable for the attendees.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So, Catherine, I wanted one of the things, and it kind of ties into what Gail was talking about. That's kind of unique is that in addition to it, just in all of the leadership classes and training, there's also a mentoring component to what you guys do. You have a mentoring program, and so I'd love for you to kind of tell us a little bit about how that works, how you guys are rolling that out with this class, and give us some of the details on that.
So being part of this academy for 2024, I have my own mentor. And so every attendee, every student has their own mentor. I believe that we have 3 mentors, all from our board of directors. So we have Mary Sue Patchett, Heidi Kutenbacher, and then Gwen Tebow. And these are all people on our board of directors. Mary Sue Patchett's actually one of our founding members, and she is my mentor. So I feel very lucky, and we're going to have a few virtual mentorship calls with them, kind of just to keep the students on pace in between our in-person session, and kind of have that direct resource of someone to ask your question, make sure you're staying on track, in addition to our wonderful facilitator, Velma Knowles.
Yeah, and Gail, you were telling as we were prepping, you were telling the story that, they're not just providing like, the typical mentor, like question answer resource, but they're coming in and they're gonna tell their stories. And you were talking about Gwen's story and how she shared that. I'd love for you to kind of share that why that's important and what her message was to all the participants.
Gwen is such a wonderful person, and she is a past chair for the association, and now she's the chair of our institute. So she's really played an important role with the association. But when she finished college, she said that she had to go to work. So she applied for several positions, and her first position was at $5.50 an hour. So she learned a lot from that position, but then apparently things in her life just worked out to where she was able to move up the ladder pretty quickly. And by the time, she had been in the workforce for, I don't know, 5 to 10 years, she was able to double her salary. She was able to work in the hospital system. And then she was even able to take off for a couple of years when she was having her children. And that was really important for her to be able to talk about that as well. But then when she re-entered the workforce, she got involved with assisted living, and she apparently did really well with that. She opened the first Sterling House, which was a Brookdale property
Oh
out,
yeah.
and then went to work with Legend Senior Living when they turned Legend. And she's been there for 10 or 15 years. So, what was really funny about it was every time that she would make a move in her career, she was telling everybody 2 things. One, of course, her pay was going up, and she would tell us what her pay was. The
Right.
second thing was, and one of the most important things was, never be afraid to step over your boundary. Don't think that just because you don't think you're qualified that you might not be. If you want something, you need to go out and get it. And that's the way that she's pretty much been her entire career. Is if she's wanted something, she hasn't been afraid to go out and try to get it. And for the most part, she said she's been very successful at that. At the end of her story, it was so funny because, everybody was just hanging on every word that she was saying. And it was just such a great story. But at the end, I said, "Well, Gwen, how much are you making now?" And she just started dying laughing. And she said, "I'm not going to tell you what I'm making now." But of course, she's the divisional vice president at Legend Senior Living. So I'm sure she's doing pretty well for herself. But it was just really that she
Yeah.
really made it, in her career. And so the story was basically, everybody can do what I've done. And it's just amazing. So I can't wait to hear Mary Sue, who was the executive vice president of Brookdale, and Heidi Kuchenbacher, who was also an executive director starting out, and now she has her own consulting company. So they're going to be very interesting stories. We also have one more advisory board member who wants to get involved. He's not a mentor, but he still wants to tell his story. He feels it's important for people to hear, about his career as well. So, we've got all these board members and members actually wanting to participate now, which is really awesome.
Technology continues to drive changes in senior care, and that includes food service. eMenuChoice is an award-winning point-of-service application for managing the dining function in senior living communities. This mobile, touchscreen-enabled software enhances the dining experience for residents while streamlining processes for staff. The flexibility and functionality of eMenuChoice makes it an effective solution for any type of senior living environment, from independent and assisted living to skilled nursing facilities. It works for production kitchens or restaurant-style service with options for per meal or a la carte pricing, and accommodates a variety of payments, including bill to account, meal credits, and credit cards. Created by a senior care provider with more than a century of experience serving older adults, eMenuChoice eliminates communication barriers between staff and residents while enabling person-centered choices and greater resident satisfaction. eMenuChoice, transforming dining for senior living.
Yeah. And I think that piece is so important, right? Because being able to, I mean, understanding and learning about leadership is important, but unless you kind of see what can come from it, how you can value it, and how it can really have an impact on you and your career, I mean, I think telling those stories makes it so much more valuable. And I think it's a huge piece of why that is such a unique opportunity. So, Katherine, we were talking about you mentioned, you're a part of this class, you're kind of learning about it and being a part of it all at the same time. And we were talking about the first kind of experience with everybody, which was that Capital Advocacy Day. And so I'd love for you to tell a little bit about that and the experiences from that day that you guys experienced.
Yeah, so that was the commencement of our academy program in conjunction with our legislative advocacy days. So that was a great event because the students were able to meet the board of directors. And a lot of those board of directors were the same company from these students, maybe even their nominators. And so first we started by touring the House chambers. We got to sit in legislators' seats and get a one-on-one tour with somebody from the Capitol who explained all of the artwork, all the history of Florida's history that's in the chamber. So that was really, really cool, especially for myself. I'm not well versed in politics, so that was really cool. And then the students meeting the board of directors, I think that was most impactful. Seeing one, I mean, how nervous the students were kind of showed that
Yeah.
it really them. And then the board of directors getting to explain a little bit of their stories and kind of show them where they could be one day. I think it was a really well-rounded experience.
Yeah, I mean, being able to just be in the room. Gail, I think you said it was like a 2-hour, sit down with the board of directors, and it's hard, especially, when you think about the positions those individuals have to get that kind of quality time, and again, another kind of piece of that mentorship from those individuals, and so that it sounds like a great way to kind of start the whole thing off. It's like, here's where you could be someday if you just embrace what we're gonna have you go through, and so um, obviously, Gail, the goal is that we want to improve the communities that we have for our seniors and our residents. And so when you think about the graduates from last year and the graduates that are going to come out of this current class, what do you think they're going to be equipped with? How do you feel like this program is going to help them have a positive impact on the seniors that they're serving?
Well, just seeing the class from last time and then participating in this last one, it's just so interesting to see the growth that comes out of these students. And, you know, our business is one that turns over like crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
I've never seen a turnover like we've had, and especially during COVID. I don't think we've even recovered from it, or will we, because there's just so much workforce shortage. But, people leave because of people, they don't necessarily leave because of the job.
Right.
So if we can teach those leadership skills and we can also teach that mentoring, capabilities within the students to always be looking for someone that they can mentor and they can bring up, with themselves, then that's something that we want to do. We also want to kind of create some long-term employment with folks. We
Yeah.
have a number of our board members who talked about, their 35 or 40 years of experience. And that's a big deal to be in senior living for that long a period of time, especially now. So we want to
Yeah.
create that so where, folks have a 25-year career, in senior living, because really and truly, we're going to be really dominant for the next 20, 25 years. And we'll need so many people to help us get there.
Yeah, and I think about being in Florida, right? Like, that is definitely I mean, everybody knows that's gonna be a hotbed for senior living, and so just being able to try and build our leaders from within, I mean, I think any good industry knows that that's the best way to go about doing it, and so, obviously, this is a newer program, right? You're with your 2nd class, and you've got a 3rd one that'll come later this year, but when you think about the future, of the Leadership FSLA program, what are you hoping to do, and what are some of the things that you hope you can address within the industry by having this program?
Well, like we talked about a minute ago, there's just such a workforce shortage out there. And like you said, we want to keep Florida a senior friendly state. I mean,
Yeah,
we preach that, to our legislators and, anybody that comes to the state that wants to develop here. We're just all for it because, seniors are just really, really important to us. So we want to make sure that we stay in the forefront with that. We pass legislation that it improves their lives and improves the quality of their lives, and we want our leaders to do the same thing. So it's a calling really in our
yeah.
business, not like you're flipping burgers or you're checking somebody out at Target. You've really got to have a passion for caring for people. And so it's a special group of people that work in our communities. And we just need to make sure that we build those from the ground up.
Yeah, I think that you're right. The comparison to the hospitality and the retail is so important because I always tell people, what we do in senior living is relational and not transactional. And so the best way to get those individuals to come in and then stay in is to not just show them what the value is, but also to give them opportunities to grow and build a career like you guys are doing with Leadership FSLA. So,
Well, another thing too, I just wrote a magazine article about this. Our magazine should be out pretty soon. If you haven't gotten it in the mail, you'll be getting it real soon, maybe even this week. But I saw an article flip through my email one day on make 6 figures without a 4-year degree, without even a college degree. And I was like,
uh,
what? What is this? Well, come to find out, it was a windmill operator where you would have to climb a ladder 50 feet, go into this claustrophobic area to fix a windmill. Okay. Well, how many people are going to climb up a ladder, to
right.
do stuff? Well, we have senior living professionals making that same amount of money. I mean, it's a great profession, as long as you have that caring heart, and you want to care for people. It's just a wonderful, secure position that could last for years and years.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point, right? Because one of the things, I spoke with a previous podcast about the younger generation, and Catherine, you could probably even speak to this, that,
Right.
they're looking for roles with a purpose, right? Like, how can I have an impact? What's the end game here? How can I make society better while also, providing for myself? And, your example of that windmill operator, yeah, that there's not a lot of purpose in a job like that. Yeah, it's going to pay you great, but senior living offers that. And I think it it's just a great way to kind of frame for those who need that, why senior living and why this program is a right fit for them. So, Katherine, as we kind of wrap up here, obviously, I want the listeners to learn how they can, maybe be a part of the Leadership FSLA program, but you guys are nonstop doing all sorts of other programs for your members, and even non-members can participate. So I'd love for you to kind of give the listeners information on how they can learn more about all the things that FSLA is doing and some of the things coming up here in the next couple of months.
Yes, definitely. So, Leadership FSLA nominations for the next academy will be open pretty soon. By the time our next magazine comes out, you will be able to nominate your next person to be in the academy. And so, look out for that. That will be an August cohort, and that will be really wonderful. Our membership director, Kristen Quirk, will be part of it for the next session as well. If you're interested in that, then that is on our website, on our education page, more information about the Leadership Academy, as well as all of the events that we offer. So we offer monthly lunch and learns. These are educational sessions that offer one CEU. We do at least 1 to 2 a month. And also now, if you miss a topic and you wished you were able to watch it, then you can access that on our webinar page. So now we have on-demand CEUs available, which I think is a great resource.
Yeah.
And then also offer in-person workshops. We actually just finished our annual maintenance workshop at the beginning of the month. And as of 2023, we rolled out a new workshop with our HR workshop. We had a guest ACA Chief Bureau of Health Facility Regulation in attendance. And so that was a wonderful event as well. And we're always looking to add more. And then we also do our regional meetings. We've had 6 so far. And we try and space these out and then also across the state of Florida to make it accessible to both our community members and our vendor industry partner members. And then I can't forget our magazine, as Gail mentioned, that should be hitting the mailboxes this week, our winter legislative edition. And our next edition will be covering the 2024 Leadership Academy, and you will be able to nominate straight from that article. There will be a QR code, and that should come out in the beginning of April.
Oh, and Katherine, don't forget now we have our conference coming up, July 10th through the 12th at the Ritz-Carlton in Orlando. We're super excited. What's the theme this year, Katherine?
It will be the wild side of senior living. So it will be jungle themed. We'll have fun animal and awesome fun night as usual.
There you go.
Well, ladies, I appreciate all your time, this kind of deep dive into your Leadership FSLA program. I hope that more states take your lead in providing this, especially for those non-executive director positions, because I think what you're doing there is so invaluable. And like you said, you're working to build that base of leaders inside our industry. So thank you both for joining me today on Tips from Trestle.
Thank you.
So there it is, everybody. Another one in the books. Thanks again for tuning in. Please follow, like, and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to follow us on social media at Tips from Trestle. You can also learn more about the work I do by following me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and even TikTok. And be sure to check out Trestle Hospitality Concepts at www.trestlehospitalityconcepts.com. I'm your host, Aaron Fish, and this has been another episode of Tips from Trestle.